All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So, I went back on my list of podcasts that I had all these different titles. I put them in my notes, and when I hear certain things that kind of click with me that I want to discuss, I put them in the notes, or if I think about things, I put them in the notes. And I said, let me go to the very bottom, because I haven't looked at the bottom in probably a year or so, because I keep adding on top. Those are the ones I usually cover. So sometimes, it may be a couple of years. I don't know. It could be 2 or 3 years. I don't even know. So I went to the very bottom. I said, what was the last podcast I typed in here, or the first? And I just kept adding on top until eventually they all, got to the very bottom. And what kind of struck me was, did you forget about yourself? And I was like, oh my goodness, it's been so long. Or forgetting who you are. That's what it is. I'm so sorry. It's forgetting who you are. And I was like, oh my God, that's very interesting, because I think for the most part, a lot of people, I think we forget who we truly are at times. I think sometimes through our life, we may find ourselves in a situation or find ourselves in certain situations and we have no idea how we got there, good or bad. But I think a lot of times more bad than good. You may find yourself doing things. It could be maybe drinking too much, right? To a certain degree, it could be doing drugs. It could be treating, if you're a man, a woman a certain way in a relationship. It could be a woman treating a man, a certain way. You may be behaving, doing things illegal. You may just be, just so many different things that deep down inside, you're like, how did I end up getting here? Because I was never like that before. And I think this happens with a lot of people, especially in relationships. If you know anything about me, I try to help men find the woman or women of their dreams, even if they've been through a bad breakup or divorce. But I do think in relationships, how it's very interesting how we do start off in a relationship. And this could be friendships too, I should say. But when it comes to relationships, how you start that honeymoon phase relationship with somebody, or even dating them at the beginning, and who you are as a human being and what you're expecting out of the future, especially if you start, caring for this person and loving them. You're looking into the future and saying, I'm very excited about what, the future can be with this person. Like maybe I may marry this person. I may get a home with them. I may have children with them and all these things. And as time goes on, you may do a lot of these things. And of course, there's going to be a lot of changes. But in the future, you may find yourself in these relationships too, where you're not yourself. For some reason or another, things started to happen, and they can happen to anybody, but you may start treating the person you're with very harshly. You may end up a liar. You may end up stealing from one another. You may end up doing drugs. You may be doing things behind each other's back and all these different types of things. Again, things happen. I understand that. And this isn't just for men. It's women. It's everybody. But sometimes we may have to take, a step back and say, this isn't me. This isn't what I set out to be. And a lot of times, too, I think we blame others for us behaving a certain way. So it could be like, oh, yeah, that person did this to me. That's why I treat them like this now. And I understand that. A lot of times we do get hurt or things happen where you just want to retaliate and you don't respect them. And I get that as well. But also a lot of times what you don't realize is what that's turning you into. That's not you, maybe. Just because other people do a lot of things to you, I'm not telling you to get taken advantage of. But you also can't go do things or blame other people for things you're doing now. So if I'm in a bad relationship and I become or I start drinking a lot more, and you never drank before and you don't want to drink anymore, you may have to say, why am I drinking? Oh, that person made me drink. That's not true. You just wanted to drink, take the hit. But also, if that's not you, you can change. You don't have to drink anymore. I think too, when I do these podcasts, it's not easy to kind of be fluent and talk about certain things and be interesting. And I try to be as interesting as I can. But I've even come across myself a lot of times trying different things, not even in relationships. And it could be on social media, or it could be, even doing a podcast or a video where I'm looking at things and I kind of start swaying somewhere. And it could be like almost corny. It's like, I don't talk like that. Like all of a sudden I'm starting to be somebody I'm not. And I have to put the brakes on and go, wait a minute. What happened to yourself? How did you end up here? This isn't who you are. And you may go through this as, at a job or again in a relationship, really forgetting what you kind of were setting out to do as well. A lot of us set out to go do things, and I'm all about evolving and pivoting and changing. But you sometimes may start out doing something. It kind of reminds me of I just heard this. I watched a video on Pez, the candy, how they were actually a company almost like 100 years ago that was an option for people to quit smoking. The owner didn't want people to smoke. He was more health driven. So the point being is it was the Pez candy, even the way you click it out and eat it, was a replacement not to put a cigarette in your mouth. As time went on, though, as you know, it ended up being a candy mainly for kids and adults, but it became a candy. And the candy, it's not that bad for you, but it's not necessarily that healthy. But his original thing was to make something that was healthy, and then it pivoted into something else that wasn't that healthy. And it's interesting, they even, when you question certain things, like how did they go from him creating a healthy brand or thinking it was at that point in time, and then in the future it becoming something it wasn't, like I said. And I think sometimes our life is like that. We start off wanting the best for us and wanting to maybe stay healthy or wanting to be in better relationships and all these other things. But then you go down the road, say 10, 20, 30 years or whatever the case may be, you may find yourself now doing a lot of things that is harming yourself, harming your relationships, harming your friendships, harming whatever you're doing. And you're like, this wasn't what I set out to do, and this isn't who I truly am. So I just really wanted to do a podcast on this because I don't think a lot of people sometimes really want to confront that they're not happy with who they are or what they're doing, but they also don't want to make changes. And sometimes I do believe going back to your roots of kind of like what you loved doing when you're younger. I talk about it a lot. I'm all about evolving and experimenting, believe me, and trying new things. But some things that we loved, or the reason we set out to do what we loved, can evolve into different things. And I'll say that with me too, even when I was making films, I just wanted to make films, and before you know it, I started taking on all these other things, and I'm like, all I really wanted to do was this part of the filmmaking. I didn't necessarily want to have to do all my editing. I didn't want to do maybe all the shooting. I didn't want to do all the scheduling. I just kind of wanted to direct. And I just wanted to write. So I kind of went back to my roots and just started writing again. And I was like, wow, this is why I did what I did, and this is what was making me happy, but I kind of lost myself along the way. So that's my 2 cents. If you got any questions or comments, please feel free to hit me up. If you agree or disagree, I'm at richchalenza.com.